I'm Marcus Julian Carbo from societiesandillusion.com, and I am the Angry Atheist.
Kim Davis.
Kim Davis.
Kim Davis.
Davis.
Kim Davis.
This bitch. So if you haven't heard by now, Kim Davis is the Rowan County, Kentucky clerk that, as an elected official sworn to obey and uphold the law, decided that God's law is above man's law when it comes to marriage. Thanks to this, little Kim Davis has become quite a folk hero to some on the religious right, to include two of the fools in the Republican presidential clown car. Here we are in the year 2015, and you have white, southern, cross-bearing fundamentalists clamoring to infringe upon the rights of a class of people whose only crime is being different from you, and you decide to prop up a 3-time divorced registered Democrat as your mascot and champion? What I'm going to do for you today, because I am so pissed off about how this is all rolled out, and the fact that she is given legitimacy by even a smidgen of the population, that I'm going to give you, the viewer, some new bullets for your gun when you're out at the bar debating this particular topic. So scoot yourself up closer to your screen and get ready for some reasons that make the anti-gay marriage argument 100% irrelevant. Number 1.
Marriage is ordained of God.
That's possible, but which one exactly? Isis, Inanna, Nuwa? Each of these goddesses of marriage predate the Abrahamic Yahweh by more than 3,000 years, and yet ancient Egypt, Sumer, and ancient China all had the institution of marriage. And let's not forget that there was an entire hemisphere without Abrahamic influence which also had institutions of marriage. So maybe marriage was ordained by a god, but it wasn't your god. Number 2.
I believe that marriage is not just a bond, but a sacred bond between a man and a woman.
The institution of marriage is not sacred. The institution of marriage was founded as a legal acknowledgement of a wealthy, powerful man over his second-class citizen property known as women and children. Marriage was the only way for a wealthy man to try and ensure that his fortune would be passed on to his progeny and not to the blacksmith's kids. Had DNA tests existed 5,000 years ago, marriage may never have existed. Now, where exactly is the sacred part? Number 3. Marriage has always been between a male and a female. Well, since we're talking about traditions founded in bullshit, how about we reinstall a few of these beliefs as well? Blame a disease on demons and Jews instead of microbes and pathogens. No more women's suffrage, just women suffering. Gladiatorial fights to the death, rubbing feces and open wounds to heal them. And my personal favorite, the 3/5 rule. Next, number 4. Marriage is about the children and for procreation.
Suppose a couple, a 70-year-old couple, comes in and they want it.
Number 5. Marriage is clearly defined in this nation's Constitution, where in no place in the Constitution is the institution of marriage defined, hence why W wanted to do this.
Our nation must enact a constitutional amendment to protect marriage in America.
Now, your state constitution might clearly define marriage as a contract between a man and a woman, overseen by the state. But this is not the first time that the federal government has had to weigh in on outright violations of the civil rights and liberties of a class of citizens being held down by the mob. So in truth, this really isn't about Kim Davis. This is about the entire anti-gay marriage crowd. And the anti-gay marriage crowd wouldn't be so infuriating if they weren't just so wrong. And this is just on their major points. They'll say things like, we'll just change the name of marriage. Well, we'll just give the coloreds their own water fountains, too. Kim Davis is exercising her religious liberty.
The glory, his people have rallied, and you are a strong people.
You wouldn't use this as a defense if she were Muslim. And finally, they hold this notion that allowing marriage to be universal will somehow destroy the institution of marriage. Please. High divorce rates, biased courts, draconian child support payments, no sum gain for men, and a new generation of women who do not want to be broodmares for the state were ruining marriage long before you allowed a new player into the game. Now, if you think the institution of marriage is changing, it really isn't. The institution of marriage is the same as it has always been. It is a contract between two adults overseen by the state. The anti-gay marriage lobby stems from Bronze Age notions that procreation is everything, women are property, and two men kissing is icky. If you feel that way, it is high time you realize that your antiquated notions are now outnumbered at a more civilized, humanitarian, and equal society, and perhaps one day civilization will be the result of leaving those ridiculous Bronze Age notions behind. Marriage is now universal. Deal with it. So, little Kim Davis, is she a resurgence of anti-gay sentiment or the last desperate gasps of a dying and threatened ideology? Place your comments down to my right if you're crazy enough to pick a fight. Then head over to www.societyisанillusion.com to learn about all the great projects we're cooking up, and then head over to Patreon to become a patron for this channel and the creation of the Path to Arcadia project for as little as $1 per video or 10,000 words written in the series. Then join me here for the next episode of The Angry Atheist. Deuces.